morning, YouTube. Tire Metalhead Weatherman here. Hopefully, you guys are doing well. So, yesterday ended up being pretty active. Unfortunately for me, stream crashed. Wasn't able to connect to YouTube server from Streamlabs, so that was a fun issue to resolve. But I do think we got it resolved now, and good timing too, because there's yet another enhanced risk today. Quite the streak we've started to end up on here. Wasn't expecting this to happen, but nonetheless, here we are. So let's go ahead and get into things. The main areas of concern over here is this enhanced risk for Springfield, Missouri. Joplin's in there as well. Rogers, Arkansas, Bentonville, and Bella Vista. Slight risk even goes all the way up north towards Omaha, out east even towards Nashville, Clarksville, Bowling Green, Jackson, Tennessee, and even Memphis, and then stretches as far west as even Amarillo, Texas, and even further beyond. So if you're in those areas in particular, I will be watching out for severe weather. Can't disinclude anyone in the marginal risk. Little Rock, you're in there as well. Springfield, Illinois, you're in there. Des Moines, Sioux Falls, Norfolk, Nebraska, Garden City, Kansas, and others as well. So could be a pretty active day here. Pretty widespread severe weather seems possible here. And then main threat, of course, today, with it being summertime, it's not uncommon. Wind threat's the main thing. Hail threat is also pretty prevalent. I wouldn't be surprised to even see a hatch risk develop around here, off to the west a little bit. But I think things will really start to ramp up once we get over towards, of course, where the enhanced risk is, towards maybe south central Missouri, maybe even a little bit of Arkansas too. With this also comes a pretty notable tornado threat at this point. We have a 5% area. I don't know if this will be upgraded. I don't see a lot of ingredients that will lead up to this being a 10%, but we all know how quickly the weather can change, so have to take that with a grain of salt right now. But even in the 2% areas, which includes Sioux Falls, Bowling Green, Nashville, of course, and others that we previously mentioned, have to be on the lookout for tornadoes as well. Also, increasingly concerned about the flooding threat over here towards St. Louis. Very hard hit recently by a big flood event. And then it looks like we have a very active pattern that keeps on leading additional storm systems over these areas. So definitely going to be keeping an eye on that. We'll be talking about that momentarily. So taking a look at the excessive rainfall outlook here, definitely looks like we have a slight risk over towards St. Louis, but a little bit further off towards where our enhanced risk is, there's also a moderate risk that's developed now. There's at least over 1 million people in that area alone, so definitely going to be on the lookout for flooding. We'll talk about that more towards the end of the video. But overall, there could very well be almost 58 million people that could be impacted by the potential for flash flooding or significant rainfall today. So let's definitely make sure we're keeping an eye on the weather for all hazards today. So the main catalyst behind this setup is going to be a mid-level trough here mainly. Mid-level trough being at 700 millibars. We'll kind of see this start to really emerge more as we get later into the day. You can kind of see it by 19Z here. This is the beginnings of our trough really starting to dig in here. Here's a little short wave to go with that. That's going to go with that MCS that's passing through right around this time that I'm making the video. And as we get later into the evening, right here is where our point of interest kind of sets up here. You can almost even see a little bit of a divergence convergence at this level, which is interesting. You usually don't see this unless you're looking more so towards the 200 millibar area, 500. And I mean, it's pretty evident on those as well. So definitely seeing more and more why we're favoring this spot over towards south central Missouri. Because on 200, of course, it's not prevalent. I was kind of leaning originally more so towards north central or maybe even central Missouri, but I can see why the threat kind of shifted a little further south, especially when you start looking at it from the mid to lower levels of the atmosphere. You can kind of see the setup really favoring this more at 500 as well. You can kind of see this trough taking shape here, a little bit more pronounced at 500. Forcing's a little bit more subtle towards this region, so The probability of supercells also increase as well in the early parts of the evening. So let's go ahead and take a look at some parameters such as dew points. We'll get into severe weather and parameters such as CAPE and all that in just a moment here. Moisture returns are extremely important with severe weather, as we all know. Or if you don't know, you can check my Weather Nerd 101 playlist out. I'm going to be doing some more videos on that hopefully soon in the future, but we'll have to see how that plays out. Pattern being as active as it is, it definitely isn't helping with my output on those videos. So if you're expecting more, just give me time. I'll try and figure it out. So looking at where the dew point's pretty much 80 degrees right here. In fact, this is an 82. With as rich as the dew points are, as warm as the temperatures are, and decent lift in the area. In fact, the lift is actually very notable. It's no surprise that we have intense CAPE. In fact, we're almost near 7,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE, so that's very concerning. Weak cap in the area as well. We definitely have a setup for really all modes of severe weather here. In fact, the significant hail parameter on this is very high, so like I said, I would expect that hatched risk for hail will be coming a little bit later this morning and into the afternoon here. But as far as the low-level hodograph is concerned, we're looking moderately impressive towards the low to mid levels here. So tornado threats possible. Also downdrafts could be possible too. DCAPE is at over 1,031 joules per kilogram, or 1,131 joules per kilogram. So things are getting pretty interesting over here. It should be a pretty active setup here if everything holds together as it is right now. Of course, as we know, with any storm system, there's always fail parameters. So if anything with that trough kind of lags back a little bit, we could be spared here. We'll see what happens with that. But go ahead and shift over to some parameters here. We're looking mainly at mixed layer to start out. I always like looking at mixed layer over the surface because you want to know what's going on in all levels of the atmosphere for a severe event. So at 22 to 23Z, look how rich this CAPE is. Like I said, this is mixed layer CAPE. Surface CAPE is typically higher than the mixed layer in most severe events. So whenever you see 4,000 joules per kilogram, or in this case 4,665, look at that surface CAPE in the pink there, 6,133. Lapse rates aren't super steep though, so that's a little bit helpful. And there's slightly abrupt changes here as far as the moisture is concerned, but still this setup here looks pretty impressive for severe here. Definitely have a decent tornado sounding here and hodograph. It's nothing unbelievable, but it's definitely notable. Also could be seeing a storm motion more so towards maybe the east-southeast here, so definitely another thing to keep an eye on. Significant tornado parameters at about 3, and then the supercell analog, the supercell composite's pretty high as well. All other parameters such as lift, energy helicities, shear, storm relative helicities, all of it pretty sufficient at this point. So as of right now, I'm very concerned with this region here. As we get later into the evening, CAPE doesn't really drop off too much. It really won't drop off until overnight here, and even then across this region we're still sitting at about 3,600 joules per kilogram plus by this point. Tornado threat does drop off thankfully, but the damaging wind threat I think will actually go up more too, as I would expect this to probably consolidate more into a bit more of a squall line-esque or MCS type event. So next thing to look at here will be bulk shear. It's important for severe weather, especially tornadoes and damaging winds. So from what I can see here, we do get sufficient values as we get later into the evening. I'm really thinking these storms will fire around maybe 6 or 7. We'll verify that in just a moment, but by that point, it does look like we get close to 50 knots here. Usually about 30 knots is more than sufficient enough. So definitely something that catches my attention for sure. And as we move off to the east here, there's even a few more 50, even some 60 knot areas here to look out for here. Here's a legend right here to go with that. And then last but not least, of course, we'll look at reflectivity, and then we'll look at the quantitative precipitation in just a moment here. That'll show how much rainfall we can expect here. So just make it clear, this round of storms is not going to be the main event. It's an MCS that was forming last night and is moving off to the east here. But this will set the stage for our next group of storms to come in. You can kind of see them starting to form around 7, 8 o'clock Eastern time. So it will be about 6 or 7 Central time for these guys. And then as we go later into the evening, this of course forms into a squall line MCS type setup. And of course with that, the threat of damaging winds, maybe still a few tornadoes, and also some flooding comes into play. So let's go ahead now and take a look at those totals. This is over an 18-hour period, of course, so we got to keep an extra close eye on any particular hot spots here. I'm going to actually go ahead and zoom in, give you an up-close look at this region here in particular. So this is from the Ohio Valley perspective here. So interestingly enough, and I think a lot more rain is going to fall overnight, but from what I can see here already, and this is maybe just to the southeast of Joplin, Missouri, we see a hot spot here where we could get up to about 6 to 7 inches of rain here. This could be overdone, but these are supercells. Supercells are known for having ridiculous rainfall rates, and with the amount of Gulf of Mexico moisture we have surging into this area, dew points in the 70s and 80s, it's not unrealistic here. So let's definitely make sure we're keeping an eye out for every hazard: hail, wind, tornadoes, and flooding. That being said here, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You found it useful. If you did, you know what to do. Smash that like button. Decimate that subscribe button if you're new especially. And then also hit that share button. Could be a dangerous day ahead. So let's make sure that we're being weather aware here. There's no need to be scared. But it's been Tired Metalhead Weatherman. Until next time, I'll see you guys. Have a nice day. Stay safe, and I'll see you soon.